This is a video to make one of these earbud pouches, zipped with a zip in it and fully lined. It was originally shown on Facebook Live on Tuesday, September the 14th, but I had a few problems, so I will be deleting that Facebook Live and this video will replace it. So what you need is 4 circles, 5 inches wide, 2 for the lining and 2 for the outside, a 2-inch by 2-inch piece of fabric for your little tab, and a zip. Doesn't really matter what size you have. This one's too long, but it will be cut down. And I've tried to get a contrasting colour just so it pops out a bit. Okay, so what we're going to do is 2 of our circles I cut in half for the outside and 2 for the lining I've cut in half. On the back of my outer fabric I've actually put on some, this is fusible fluffy interfacing wadding. It's heat and bond. It's quite thin, just gives a little bit of body to the little pouch. You can use felt. You can use ordinary wadding if you want, as long as you make sure you've cut away from the edge, because otherwise it'd be too bulky in your seams. This is fusible, so I've ironed this on. If yours isn't fusible, if you're using something that's not fusible, you can just use some temporary adhesive, spray on adhesive, or just put a couple of pins in it and just till it's sewn together. Just make sure you take them out before we sew the complete thing together, because the last thing you want is pins on the inside. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to put our front pieces onto the zip. So we're going to put those to one side. And we're going to put the front piece level with the edge of the zip and the lining underneath. So we're going to match the front and the lining up so they're nice and level. And then we're just going to put a couple of clips in there just to hold them in place. Oops, my zip's just moved. And just make sure it all lines up together. That's it. And then we're just going to put our zipper foot on our sewing machine and we're going to just sew down the edge, roughly around about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of the fabric and the edge of the zip. So I've got my zip underneath my machine. I'm going to run the edge of my zipper foot along the edge of the fabric, and I've measured it. It's about 1/4 of an inch. So seam allowance of about 1/4 of an inch. And there we have our zip in there. So make sure your ends match up. So that's the top, and then we're going to match up the lining as well and just clip it in place. And we're just going to do exactly the same on the sewing machine as what we did last time. Right, I've just pressed this, give it a good press, and now what I'm going to do is top stitch down these sides just to hold this in place and stop the lining mainly from catching in the zip. And the edge of the zipper foot is going to ride on top of the zipper teeth. So it's about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the fabric here. So that's that side done, and then turn it round and do the other side. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to actually open this zip, and I'm just going to go across here with a zigzag just to hold this in place. So I need to change my presser foot to my regular foot. And I'm just going to go along here with a zigzag. Just hold the teeth together. Go carefully over the teeth because you don't want to actually break your needle. And then you can either do a reverse or you can turn it round and go back round this way. Just want to make sure that my zigzags on my fabric. All I'm doing is just making sure the end of the zip is secure so that my zipper pull does not come flying off the end. Don't worry if it looks untidy, because all we've done is a couple of stitches there just to stop it coming off. And you can do the same the other end. I do advise it because otherwise, not thinking, you can actually just pull it off the other end, as those who actually saw the Facebook Live saw it happen. And that now will just stop it coming off the end. So you can get rid of all your bits of thread. All these stitches will actually be inside your seam allowance, so you won't see them. And also, they're also inside the pouch anyway. You can use a coordinating thread. Mine, I've actually done it so it coordinates in with the bits that we're actually going to show. so on here, you know, you can hardly see the stitching. So now we're going to take our outside piece, and also again you need to make sure that if you have got directional fabric that you're going to match it so the direction is correct. Mine doesn't really matter because my shoes on mine, some are this way, some are that way. So just fit your outer fabric on, and then your lining goes on top of this, wrong sides together. So this is right sides together, and this one is wrong sides together. Okay, and then you're going to put some clips in all around the edges. Make sure that your zip is undone, half undone, otherwise you won't be able to turn your pouch inside out. Now, just before we sew it, we've got our little tab we're going to put in there. We've folded it all up, so the outsides, fold it in half, fold the outsides to the middle, and then fold the two sides together and press. And then just stitch along the edge just to hold it down. So I'm just going to quickly do that. You don't need to do a reverse because it's all going to get stitched in. So there's my tab. I'm just going to fold it in half, and just up where my zipper pull is going to be, which is this end. My pull's going to come up to there. I'm just going to put it in there, in between the two outside pieces. So there it is there. And I'm just going to lay it in there. Now, so that I can clip it in place, I'm actually just going to cut my zip off. Make sure your zipper pull is in here and not out here. When you're going to cut your zip, use an old pair of scissors. Don't use your dressmaking scissors. So there's my pull, my little zipper tab, and I'm just going to put a clip in there just to hold it in place. Okay, just make sure you don't get your fabric caught up. Now what you could do to start with is, if your front piece, this piece is too big, if you can still see like here, you can trim it all the same size, but what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to use the lining, the edge of the lining, as the edge of my seam allowance, and then I can trim that all off afterwards. Okay, and I can also trim this piece of the zip off. So I'm going to go around here. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And with that, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch foot. This is my 1/4 inch foot. When my needle's in the center position, if I take the edge of that along the edge of my fabric. That will be 1/4 of an inch. You don't have to start here. You can start anywhere, but I'm actually going to start just in front of it. And just make sure your needle is in the centre there, otherwise you could end up, if it's at either side, it'll end up hitting the foot and breaking your needle. So I'm going to do reverse here, just a couple of stitches, that's all you need to do. When you go over your zip, just be careful, don't go racing like a Formula 1 driver, take it gently because you don't want to catch and break your needle. Taking your clips out as you go. Just keep gradually turning your fabric around. Now, as I'm going over this zip, I'm actually going to go over it twice. I'm going to reverse as well, just to make sure it's all secure. Now I'm coming back to where I started. I didn't actually go over this bit twice, so I'm actually going to carry on and go over that again. I'm going to trim all my ends. Now what you can do now is actually go around the edge. Oops. Go around the edge here with the scissors and trim down your seam allowance. So I would trim it down to about 1/8 of an inch, just so it reduces the bulk. My camera's slipped. So I've trimmed down all my seam allowance. And what I'm going to do now is turn it inside out. So just push all your seams out. If you find any of the zigzag we did, if you find any of the zigzag actually shows, you can just get your seam ripper and you can take that out now because it served its purpose. it matches your zip, you can just leave it, nobody's going to see it. But just go round with your seam ripper and take it out. Cut off any little threads that come through. Now you can either leave it like that, or you can actually go around the edge and top stitch. I've top stitched mine. It helps to actually enclose the raw seam inside, because you've got that raw seam there. So just by going around and top stitching, that encloses that, so it makes it all nice and tidy. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to go around and top stitch. Now I'm not going to need my 1/4 inch foot because I don't really want to top stitch by 1/4 inch. I'm just going to put my ordinary foot back on. My stitch length I put at 3, and I'm going to start just down here. I'm not actually going to go across the zip. I'm going to start this side of the zip. I'm going to come all the way round until I get to the top. I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to then stitch round. So we're going to do it in 2 halves. Don't really want to go across that zip. If you find it is too bulky, give it a little press on the iron, that helps flattening it. Or you can also use a denim needle, which is a stronger needle. I'm just going to I'm just going to start it off by hand because it's a little bit bulky there. And I'm going back to about 2 or 3 stitches. You don't need to go any further than that. And the trick of this is to actually try and get your top stitching the same from the edge all the way round. And I'll tell you now, mine isn't. Undo your zip so it's out of the way. So I'm coming around, it's getting a little bit bulky, so just get a little bit of help at the back. And then just do a little reverse. That's it, to secure it. Come off, start the other side. It's no need to snip off, you can snip those off in a minute. So we're going to start a couple of stitches, reverse, going about 1/8 of an inch all the way round. Reverse, couple of stitches, and take it out from the machine. So I'm just going to clip my threads. and that one where we didn't get them. And there you have your pouch. So I hope you enjoy making this. Please post your pictures onto the Facebook group. And thank you for watching.